Welcome to National Arts. I'm Mike Baker. Our guests this evening include internationally known wildlife artist Edward Bierly, a gentleman whose work has graced the cover of international and national wildlife. We'll also meet Lois Edwards. She's a harpist, soprano, and the longest standing performer at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts.
Fair if you expected firing, sweet if you provoke desiring, pray still love with kind requiting. Fond if by thy sight be blindness, false if thou affect unkindness, flee both love and love's delighting. Then when hope is lost and love is scorned, I shall bury my desires and quench the fires that heaven yet in vain have burned.
You've sung since you were a little girl, played the harp for 20 years. When did you first combine the two?
Well, I combined the two when I was about 22. I was singing oratorio work and suddenly realized that I was just never going to be able to support myself singing oratorio work, which my voice was very suited for. And what happened was someone suggested to me that why don't I get myself a little harp and accompany the voice. And this someone was really very important in my life. She was actually a passerby. She came from Australia and was studying in Cleveland where I was at the time. And she, she suggested to me this wonderful idea of playing the harp. Mm-hmm. And I've carried forth on that idea for a long time.
Yeah. How difficult an instrument was it to master?
Well, it's very difficult because when you place your hands on the strings, you're placing 4 fingers on each hand. So if you misplace, you probably have 8 wrong notes at one time.
Yeah, you studied in London for a time.
I went to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama,
mm-hmm.
and I studied singing there. Mm-hmm. And the first time I did see a harp was in the halls at the Guildhall. Mm-hmm. It was fascinating to look at, and I just never really thought much about it.
So it didn't occur to you when you saw that harp that maybe someday you'd be playing?
No.
Now you started with a smallish harp or a folk harp like this one, is that correct?
It's supposed to be easier.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have the same amount of tension on the strings, and there isn't so much to deal with. It doesn't have the pedals. There are 7 pedals on a harp, which means that you are using your feet and your hands, both.
I have a bonnet trimmed with blue. Do I wear it? Yes, I do. I shall wear it when I can. Now go to the fair with my young man. My young man will go and see. He'll come home and play for me. Tip to the heel and tip to the toe. Now that's the way the polka goes. I have a bonnet trimmed with blue. Do I wear it? Yes, I do. I shall wear it when I can. Go to the fair with my young man.
I understand that there are 2 schools of thought insofar as playing the harp is concerned.
Well, basically there was the old French way of playing, where you held your hands in this position and played very softly. And it really was for just a different kind of sound. And then a man by the name of Salzedo took it upon himself to change this idea, and he really did. He changed the sound of the harp by holding the hands differently and getting a bigger, a louder sound. I think the tale was this way, that Nijinsky was dancing and looked over to see the harp player who sat there hunched over his harp playing away like this, and said, well, why don't you play like this? And I think that's the idea behind the change in the way harps are played.
Lois, you're noted in the harp world for playing unusual pieces. Is that true?
Well, very seldom does someone actually sing with the instrument in this country. It's quite unknown, really. It's a big tradition among Welsh and Irish and Scottish people, but not with the pedal harp so much, and not with the art music. It's mostly a folk idea, is to sing and play the harp. Mm-hmm. I'm noted because of the Library of Congress is so near to me, and I have worked long hours there researching the voice and harp literature that there is. Mm-hmm. And there is quite a lot. Some of it comes from 1700s. There's Renaissance pieces which are scored for harp and voice, or any other instrument for that matter.
Who plays the harp? Is there a prototypical type person that chooses it as an instrument?
Well, you have to be very tough to play it, I think. I think the idea is, of course, that we're very airheady kind of people with not much going on here. But I think it takes a lot of steel to play the instrument. You really have, there's a lot of risks. And playing the trumpet has that world too, I think. But the harp world is filled with just a lot of very, very hard, competent people.
I've heard the term pop harp. What does it mean?
Well, it means popular music played on the harp.
Uh-huh.
And this is kind of a new idea to the harpists. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds unusual, but I mean, the harp's very difficult because you have to pedal in every accidental. And of course, popular music is filled with these accidentals. Mm-hmm. And also, popular music does imply a certain amount of improvisation, and it's difficult to to do this on the harp.
Would it be a song like "Pennies from Heaven"?
Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. So keep your umbrella upside down. Fill it full or pocket full of sunshine and flowers. When you want the things you love, you must have showers. So when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me.
Clearly one of the foremost wildlife artists in America today, Ed Bierly has sketched nature as far back as he can remember. As a young man, I know you really enjoyed the outdoors. When did you begin to sketch it?
I started drawing when I was 5 years old, but at that time I was taken up with airplanes and ocean liners. Then slowly I began to discover nature in the form of small turtles. And that led to other things. And since I always drew, I naturally began to draw the animals and the surroundings. I can't tell you when, maybe in my early adolescence.
You remember your very first serious wildlife sketch painting?
Well, I used to copy Paul Bransom's paintings from the magazines and newspapers when they were advertising Lucky Strikes or something like that. I was serious then, but the results weren't. So, probably, if you mean serious, it started after my first trip to Africa, when it became an all-engrossing sort of thing.
What about the future of Bierly's painting? It all hinged on his first reaction to Africa.
Well, I think the immensity of it in the first place, the variety, and the fact that it was threatened by the expansion of population and the destruction of habitat, the urgency of that, plus the absolute astounding variety and numbers of animals.
So you, in a sense, empathized with the animals as well.
Oh, immediately.
Did your impressions of wildlife change the more you had an opportunity to study them?
Oh, sure. You learn it. You learn something every time you watch. If you watch long enough, they always do something that's not in the books or that could be considered uncharacteristic, because animals are individuals, and they constantly surprise you.
Ed, when creating a work, you use a series of doodles, sketches, sometimes some watercolors to start developing the work. Is that true?
Oh, well, usually it starts with a mental image, which is sort of an amalgamation of a lot of visual impressions that you've collected, or some incident, visual incident that sticks in your mind, and you think about it and you think that might make a good painting. And then the job is to take this visual image in your mind and translate it to a graphic image. And that translation usually determines whether or not your visual image was valid. If you can get it into graphics and it still has the impact and it still has the significance you wanted, then you probably have the beginning of a good painting. And so the first thing you do is make, as you say, many, many little doodles. The doodles are the graphic realization, or the beginning. And the best ones you sort of pick up on and you enlarge those. And as you enlarge them, you run into little problems and you have to solve those. And eventually, the way I work is I work it up by steps till I get to a point where I think I'd like to see some color in it. And then I'll do it in any paint that I have on hand, watercolor, acrylics, or oils, just to get something down in color. Very often I'll do that of a size that I can put in my opaque projector and enlarge again. Sometimes to the ultimate size, sometimes to an intermediate size. So there's a whole lot of steps in the thing.
When you're developing your initial sketches, I've noticed that you have certain groupings. You have the animal facing one way, then another, and then you come up with your final product.
I think a lot of artists do this, but at least wildlife artists do. But what I do very often is I'll do a fairly comprehensive drawing on tissue, and I stick it up on my window here, and then I'll use a razor blade and cut off the limbs and move them around. So you get an infinite variety of possibilities as far as position goes. And when you hit the right one, you can pretty well tell.
Your works are definitely realistic, but in a sense they're naturalistic too, because you convey a certain emotion, a certain feeling.
It's fairly easy with the help of photographs to do a portrait, of an animal, complete down to the last hair and the last glint in the eyeball. But if all you've done is translate a good photograph into a very sharp, finely delineated painting, that doesn't seem like it's worth the while, or worth the effort, if the animal is just standing there and it doesn't have any emotional impact. What I think is important is that you portray an animal so that the viewer looks at it and gets a sense of what that animal is feeling or thinking. It has to have that feedback. And just a picture of the animal is not enough.
Tell me about the emotion or the feeling of the clouded leopard.
He's expressing mild curiosity, I think, because in that painting he's seeing a movement above him, and being a hunter and being alert, he quickly looks at it. And I hope people get from this painting the idea that he has decided that the size of the prey, the size of the lizard, is not worthy of doing anything about it.
What is happening with the running fox?
Well, I wanted to portray there the idea of a fox scuttling through the snow, as they do, if they feel that they're threatened or feel that they're being chased in any way. And so his I guess overriding emotion will be not outright fear, but very extreme caution in order to get away.
Tell me about the nursing fawns.
Well, I call that happy hour, because the mother, the doe, will leave the fawns. In most cases, they have twins. She will leave her twin fawns in a concealed position during the day while she goes out and browses. Mm-hmm. Then she comes back in the evening, and that's the time for the fawns to nurse. So since it was evening light and the fawns one has nursed apparently and the other one is nursing, I call it happy hour.
There's an interesting story connected with the eagle that you've painted. Can you relate that to us?
That is a specific female eagle that was shot in Iowa. It was shot down by someone unknown, and it was found by the farmer, and he called the Fish and Wildlife Service, who then called the Minnesota Raptor Rehabilitation Center, the University of Minnesota. And they collected this eagle, whose wing bone was shattered, and they operated on it, put a pin in the wing, and then after a lengthy rehabilitation, they were going to let it go. Well, during this period, the hostages from Iran were released and came home, and the U.S. Navy band had a concert which was built around their welcoming them home. And this eagle was flown down in a private jet to appear on the stage of Constitution Hall. So she had already achieved some celebrity. And then when she was to be released, I went up and at the release site on a very rainy day, I watched her finally, realizing she was loose, spring from the keeper's hand and just soar out over the Mississippi Valley and Mississippi River. And so the overriding feeling here, I think, is a sense of release, a sense of jubilation at being free after a long confinement.
From my perspective, I get the feeling that there's a certain role reversal here. We tend to sometimes peek at animals. Maybe it's just from our perspective in a zoo. But here in the wild, I get the feeling that the animals are looking at us.
Well, normally a lion will know where you are long before you know where he is, and he's probably looking at you many times when you don't see him at all. And this painting was prompted by an experience at Chobe National Park last fall when we were looking for lions. We'd seen most other things, and my group wanted to see lions. That was important to them. And we had a driver who was a bushman and knew the ways of the wild pretty well. So he said that since he saw all the baboons in a tree, he said there are lions around, otherwise they'd be down foraging. And eventually he came up to a very thorny thicket, and he said, yes, there he is. And of course, we didn't see him at first, and then you see the little black T that's his nose, And then you keep looking, and then finally you see his eyes, and the eyes are looking directly at you. So I wanted to get that idea of the concealed lion looking at you.
Well, it seems to me, Ed, that you do more than just preserve your work on canvas. You serve in a conservationist role as well.
I think any wildlife artist, if he's conscientious at all, is a conservationist. I mean, we're trying to preserve on canvas those animals, and it's you know, bound up very tightly with preserving them in actuality in the wild.
One of your many achievements includes the winning of the federal duck stamp competition on 3 different occasions.
Well, the first one was American mergansers in 1956. And the second one was a brant, American brant. I think that was 60, 61. I'm beginning to get vague about the dates now. I think it was sort of like every 7 years there for a while. And the last one was Ross's geese in 70 and 71.
Your wife, Edie, is a great inspiration to you. Does she help you in your work? Does she give you encouragement? What kind of a role does she play?
Well, without her, I probably would not be nearly as well known as I am. She's done most of the promotion, most of the all my public relations and everything like that, and to run the print program for me. And she usually kicks me out of my studio and into the public arena now and then, so people know I'm still alive. Otherwise, I just stay here probably.
I know a while back you had some health problems. You've managed to overcome them, and in a sense, you've become a champion swimmer. Is that true?
I always did swim, but I lost the use of my painting arm, my right arm, completely a while back. And in rehabilitating that, I swam much more. And then I got these grand notions that maybe I could go into swimming competition, and they have what's called a senior Olympics, where age groups swim against each other. So I entered that, and I won 2 medals. So now I'm committed to defending my title every year.
That's our program for this week. Until next time, remember, art was meant to be appreciated, so be a part of it. Good night.